John had always been a man of quiet determination. Life had not been easy for him, especially after he became a single dad. His daughter, Lily, was the center of his world, and he worked hard every day to make sure she had everything she needed. John was a janitor at a large office building. The work was tiring, often leaving him sore and exhausted, but he never complained. He believed that as long as he could provide a safe home and a little comfort for Lily, he was doing his job right. Every morning, John would wake up before the sun rose, get Lily ready for school, and prepare a quick breakfast. They didn't have much, but he made sure she felt loved and secure. Lily would laugh and chatter as she ate, her small hands clutching her cereal bowl tightly. Those mornings were the moments John cherished the most, even though the day ahead was long and filled with challenges. After dropping Lily off at school, John would head straight to his janitorial job. The office building was massive, with long corridors, countless offices, and a never-ending list of tasks. He cleaned tirelessly, mopping floors, wiping surfaces, and emptying trash cans. Some days, the work seemed endless, and John often felt invisible, just another worker in the background. Yet, he reminded himself that this job was the backbone of his ability to care for Lily. Evenings were no less busy. Once he returned home, he would help Lily with her homework, prepare dinner, and tidy up their small apartment. Sometimes he would sit in the living room, exhausted, and just watch Lily play with her toys or read a book. Her laughter was a melody that made the hardships of life seem lighter. But John knew that their small apartment, while cozy, was not enough. It felt cramped, and there was no room for growth, no place where Lily could run freely or play outside safely. One night, after tucking Lily into bed, John sat at the kitchen table with his laptop. He had a habit of browsing online auctions and listings, hoping to find a hidden gem that could change their lives. Most nights, he found nothing but broken promises and expensive properties he could never afford. But on this particular night, something caught his eye. It was a listing for an old army home located on the outskirts of the city. The house looked worn and aged, with peeling paint and overgrown grass, but there was something about it that drew John in. It was affordable, much more than he had imagined he could ever manage. His heart raced as he clicked through the photos, imagining what life could be like there. He could almost see Lily running in the yard, laughing as she chased butterflies. He pictured himself fixing up the old home, painting walls, and turning it into a place full of warmth and life. The thought of owning a home where they could truly belong filled him with a mixture of excitement and fear. It was a big step, a huge risk, especially with his limited savings. But the idea of a better life, even just a chance at one, was too powerful to ignore. John spent the rest of the night reading about the house. He learned that it had once belonged to a military family and had stood empty for several years. There were stories of its history, the families who had lived there, and the community that once surrounded it. The more he read, the more he felt connected to the place. It was as if the house had been waiting for someone like him, someone who needed a fresh start. For days, John couldn't stop thinking about the house. He talked to Lily about it in the mornings, careful not to overwhelm her with details she wouldn't understand. He explained that it might be a big adventure, a chance to live in a house that they could call their own. Lily's eyes lit up at the idea, and her excitement made John feel a surge of determination. He knew he had to try, even if it meant stepping into the unknown. He started saving every extra penny he could. Lunches at work were simple sandwiches instead of takeout, and he cut back on small comforts that he had allowed himself before. He stayed up late, calculating numbers, figuring out how he could make this dream a reality. The more he planned, the more real it became. It wasn't just a house anymore. It was a future, a chance to build something lasting for Lily. Finally, after weeks of consideration, John made the decision. He contacted the seller and began the process of buying the old army home. There were forms to fill out, inspections to schedule, and appointments to attend. Each step was nerve-wracking, but he faced them with quiet courage. He imagined Lily's face when she would see the house for the first time, and that image kept him going. When the day came to sign the final papers, John felt a mix of fear and exhilaration. This was real. This was happening. He held Lily's hand tightly as they walked through the doors of their new home for the first time. The house was dusty, with a musty smell lingering in the air, and the walls showed years of neglect. Yet John saw beyond the imperfections. He saw potential. He saw warmth, and most importantly, he saw a future where he and Lily could thrive. He imagined painting the walls together, fixing the floors, planting flowers in the garden. Lily ran from room to room, giggling, her small hands touching the walls and windows as if claiming the space for herself. John watched her and felt a deep sense of pride. They were not just moving into a house. They were stepping into a new chapter of their lives. As they left that day, John knew that challenges awaited. The house needed work, and there were many long days ahead. But for the first time in a long time, he felt hope. He felt that life might just be giving them a chance to start over. The journey ahead would not be easy, but with determination, love, and the bond he shared with Lily, John was ready to face it all. That night, as he tucked Lily into bed in their temporary apartment, he whispered to himself that this was just the beginning. The old army home was more than a building. It was a symbol of resilience, courage, and the possibility of change. John closed his eyes, feeling a rare sense of peace. For the first time in years, he dared to dream not just of surviving, but of truly living. And somewhere deep down, he knew that the best days of their lives were still ahead. The first morning in the old army home was quiet and still. The sun filtered weakly through the dusty windows, and the walls echoed with every sound, making the house feel strangely alive. John walked through each room, imagining what they could become with time and effort. Every corner told a story: scratches on the wooden floors, faded paint, and cracked windows. But instead of feeling discouraged, John saw opportunity. This house was a blank canvas, and he could fill it with memories and love. He began by making a list of what needed fixing. The roof had a leak, the kitchen was outdated, and the bathroom tiles were cracked. The garden outside was overgrown with weeds, and the front steps were unstable. It was a long list, and John knew it would take months, maybe even years, to complete. But he felt a spark of excitement he hadn't felt in years. For the first time, he was not just surviving. He was building a life. The next morning, John started the first small repairs. He bought a hammer, nails, and paint, determined to tackle the simplest tasks first. He patched small holes in the walls and scrubbed the floors until the wood began to shine. Lily ran around the house, exploring each room and finding little treasures: an old photograph tucked behind a door frame, a rusted toy in the attic, and a faded book on the shelf. She squealed with delight each time she discovered something new, and her laughter filled the empty house with warmth. Even though the work was exhausting, John found joy in every small accomplishment. He remembered the long nights he had spent cleaning offices, and now the effort felt different. It was for them, for a life they could finally call their own. Sometimes he would pause and look around, feeling proud of what they had achieved so far. Every nail hammered, every brush stroke, was a step toward the future he had always wanted for Lily. Days turned into weeks, and the work on the house continued. John found old furniture in nearby thrift shops and started fixing them up. A broken chair became a new reading spot for Lily, and an old table, sanded and polished, now served as their dining area. The process was slow and challenging, but with each improvement, the house began to feel more like home. Even neighbors started noticing the transformation and offered words of encouragement. Their smiles and greetings reminded John that he was not alone in this journey. One afternoon, John was working in the garden when he realized how much effort it took to bring the yard back to life. Weeds had grown tall, and the grass had become wild and uneven. With a deep breath, he started clearing the area, digging, pulling, and planting new seeds. Lily helped too, her small hands patting the soil and watering the tiny sprouts. It was messy work, but it was joyful work. The garden slowly began to take shape, and John could imagine summer evenings spent there with Lily, playing games or watching the sunset. While the physical work was demanding, the emotional challenge was just as great. John often felt overwhelmed by the responsibilities of providing, maintaining the house, and being present for Lily. Some nights, he would sit on the porch steps, exhausted, and watch the stars, wondering if he could truly manage it all. But then he would hear Lily's laughter or see her asleep peacefully in her new room, and a wave of determination would wash over him. He realized that the struggle was temporary, but the love he shared with Lily was permanent. During this time, John also started looking for ways to improve their financial situation. He picked up extra shifts whenever he could, and sometimes he took small handyman jobs in the neighborhood, fixing broken fences or painting walls for neighbors. It was tiring, but every extra dollar brought them closer to completing the house. He also discovered small joys along the way, sharing stories with neighbors, trading tips with other homeowners, and seeing Lily's eyes light up with every improvement they made together. One morning, as John was cleaning the attic, he found a box filled with old military memorabilia. There were medals, photographs, letters, and even a faded journal. He carefully opened the journal and began reading, discovering the life of the family who had once lived there. Their stories of bravery, hardship, and resilience inspired him deeply. He realized that this house had a history of courage and perseverance, and somehow he felt connected to that past. It was as if the house itself was encouraging him to keep moving forward. With renewed energy, John decided to tackle the kitchen next. The old cabinets were falling apart, and the sink was rusted, but he approached the task with patience. He measured, cut, and painted, slowly transforming the space into something usable and welcoming. Lily helped where she could, handing in tools or holding small items, and her presence made the work lighter. They sang songs while working, turning the chore into a game. By the end of the week, the kitchen looked better than John had dared to hope. The bathroom was another challenge. The tiles were cracked, and the plumbing had issues, but John refused to be discouraged. He studied guides online, watched tutorials, and asked for advice from friends he trusted. Step by step, he repaired leaks, replaced tiles, and cleaned until the space became functional and clean. It was hard work, but with each improvement, the sense of pride in their home grew. Evenings became special in their new home. After long days of work, John and Lily would sit together in the living room, enjoying simple meals, telling stories, or reading books. The house, once empty and cold, now felt alive with warmth and laughter. They would sometimes look at each other and smile, realizing that they had created a space filled with love. Despite the challenges and exhaustion, John also began to notice small changes in Lily. She seemed happier, more confident, and curious about the world around her. She ran freely in the garden, explored the rooms with enthusiasm, and spoke excitedly about their plans for the house. Seeing her grow and thrive gave John a sense of fulfillment he hadn't experienced in years. Every moment spent together in the house strengthened their bond and reminded him why he was working so hard. However, not every day was easy. Some mornings, John woke up to leaks in the roof or broken windows after storms. There were days when he felt discouraged, wondering if the effort was worth it. But then he would look at Lily's joyful face, her laughter echoing through the halls, and he would find the strength to keep going. He reminded himself that nothing worthwhile came easily, and the house, with all its flaws, represented hope and possibility. As the weeks passed, neighbors began to notice the transformation. They would stop by occasionally, offering advice, lending tools, or simply praising John for his hard work. Their support created a sense of community that John hadn't realized he missed. It reminded him that even in the hardest times, people could come together and help each other, creating bonds that lasted beyond the challenges. By the end of the month, the house had started to look like a real home. The floors shone, the walls were painted, the garden was taking shape, and the furniture they had salvaged or bought secondhand added charm and character. John felt a deep sense of accomplishment, knowing that he and Lily had worked tirelessly to turn a neglected house into a place of comfort and love. One evening, as they sat on the porch watching the sunset, John felt a quiet satisfaction. The journey had been difficult, and there was still much work to do, but they had already achieved something remarkable. He looked at Lily, her face glowing in the golden light, and realized that this house was more than just a shelter. It was a symbol of their perseverance, love, and determination. He whispered to himself that the hard work was worth it, not just for the walls and floors, but for the life they were building together. The old army home had started as a challenge, but it was becoming a sanctuary, a place where dreams could grow and hope could flourish. John knew that as long as they had each other, they could face anything. And with that thought, he felt a renewed sense of purpose, ready to continue the journey of transforming their house into a true home. One quiet morning, John was working in the garden when he heard a soft knock on the front door. He wiped his hands on a rag and went to see who it could be. Standing there were 3 women in military uniforms, looking serious but approachable. They introduced themselves politely and explained that they were connected to the family who had originally owned the house. They had come to check on the property and see that it was in good hands. John felt a mix of surprise and nervousness. He had not expected visitors, let alone people in uniforms, to appear at his doorstep. After a moment of hesitation, he invited them in. They walked through the rooms, commenting on the renovations and improvements he had already made. John explained how he and Lily had worked together to clean, repair, and decorate the house. He shared stories of their struggles and small victories along the way. The women listened carefully, nodding with understanding and occasionally offering advice on repairs and safety measures. Their presence was comforting, and John began to feel a sense of connection with them, as though they had stepped into his life to offer guidance and support. Lily, curious and wide-eyed, peeked out from behind John. The women smiled warmly at her, making her feel at ease. One of them crouched down to Lily's level and asked about her favorite parts of the house. Lily talked excitedly about the garden, the attic, and her new bedroom, describing each corner with pride. The women listened attentively, laughing and asking questions, making Lily feel like her opinions mattered. John watched this interaction with gratitude, realizing that their visit was more than just a check on the property. It was a chance to bring joy and encouragement into their lives. Over the next few weeks, the 3 women returned several times. They offered practical help with some of the repairs that John couldn't manage alone. They helped him reinforce weak floors, fix plumbing issues, and even suggested ways to improve the garden. With their guidance, John began to learn techniques that made his work more efficient and effective. Their presence was not just about assistance. It was about mentorship. They shared their experiences, teaching John skills that went beyond home repairs and into life lessons about discipline, patience, and perseverance. John and Lily also grew close to the women on a personal level. They would sit together in the evenings, sharing stories over cups of tea. The women talked about their own experiences in the military, the challenges they had faced, and the lessons they had learned. John listened intently, inspired by their courage and determination. Lily, fascinated by the stories, asked endless questions, and the women patiently answered each one. Their bond deepened, and John began to realize that these women had become more than just visitors. They were friends and mentors who genuinely cared about their well-being. One day, while working together in the garden, John shared his hopes and fears about the future. He admitted that, at times, he felt overwhelmed and uncertain about whether he could manage everything on his own. The women listened carefully and offered encouragement. They reminded him that asking for help was not a sign of weakness and that it was okay to rely on others when needed. Their words brought a sense of relief and reassurance, giving John the confidence to continue pushing forward with his plans. The women also helped John see opportunities that he had not considered before. They suggested community programs, potential jobs, and ways to make the house safer and more functional. Their advice was practical, realistic, and grounded in experience. John took their suggestions seriously, making adjustments to his schedule, improving his skills, and even considering part-time work that could bring in additional income. With their support, he felt more capable of facing the challenges ahead. During their visits, the women also spent time with Lily, teaching her small skills and encouraging her curiosity. They showed her how to plant seeds, care for the garden, and organize her room. They shared stories about teamwork, responsibility, and perseverance in ways that were simple and relatable for a child. Lily looked forward to their visits, excited to learn something new and to spend time with people who treated her with respect and kindness. John noticed her confidence growing, and it filled him with pride. One afternoon, the women surprised John with a gift. They had gathered some materials to help improve the house further: tools, paint, and even some old furniture pieces that could be restored. John was overwhelmed by their generosity and thoughtfulness. He realized that their support went beyond practical help. It was a demonstration of belief in him and Lily, a message that they were not alone in this journey. The gift became a symbol of hope and collaboration, inspiring John to continue working hard. As the days went by, the relationship between John, Lily, and the women deepened. They celebrated small victories together, like finishing a room or planting a new flower bed. They shared meals, laughter, and even quiet moments of reflection. John found himself opening up more, talking about his dreams for the future and the challenges he faced as a single dad. The women listened without judgment, offering guidance when needed and simply being present when words were not necessary. John began to notice subtle changes in himself. He felt more confident in his abilities, more patient with Lily, and more optimistic about the future. The support from the women gave him strength he hadn't realized he possessed. He started to take better care of himself, understanding that his well-being was just as important as providing for Lily. Their presence had a ripple effect, influencing not just the physical renovation of the house, but also the emotional growth of their little family. One evening, after a long day of work, the women stayed for dinner. They sat around the table, sharing stories and laughter. John watched Lily interact with them, her eyes sparkling with joy and admiration. He felt a deep sense of gratitude, realizing that these three women had become an unexpected part of their lives, bringing guidance, friendship, and hope. He thought about how a simple knock on the door had transformed their days, reminding him that life sometimes had a way of bringing the right people at the right time. With their continued help, the house started to take on a new character. Rooms were painted, floors were repaired, and the garden flourished under their guidance. Each improvement brought a sense of accomplishment, not just in the physical space, but also in the lives of John and Lily. The house was no longer just a building. It was becoming a home filled with love, learning, and resilience. John felt proud of how far they had come, knowing that their hard work, combined with the support of their new friends, had created something truly special. The women also taught John lessons beyond home repairs. They showed him how to stay organized, manage time effectively, and approach problems with patience and creativity. Their influence extended into everyday life, helping him create routines that made their days smoother and more fulfilling. Lily also benefited from these lessons, learning the importance of responsibility, persistence, and kindness. One Saturday, the women invited John and Lily to a small community event. It was a chance to meet other families, share experiences, and learn from one another. John was hesitant at first, unsure how they would be received, but the women encouraged him to join. The event turned out to be inspiring and uplifting. John met people who had faced similar struggles, shared advice, and celebrated small victories. He realized that community was more than just neighbors. It was about connection, support, and shared experiences. The women had helped him see that he was not alone, and that others could become a part of their journey as well. As the weeks went by, John reflected on the transformation in their lives. The house, once empty and warm, was now vibrant and welcoming. Lily was happier, more confident, and thriving in the new environment. John himself had grown stronger, both physically and emotionally, thanks to the guidance and encouragement of the three women. Their presence had created a ripple effect, touching every aspect of their lives and inspiring them to aim higher. By the end of the month, John could see a future that he had only dreamed of before. The house was still a work in progress, but it was filled with warmth, laughter, and love. The women had become an integral part of their lives, teaching them that support, friendship, and perseverance could change everything. John realized that the journey was not just about fixing a house. It was about building a life, a community, and a sense of belonging. And for the first time in a long time, he felt truly hopeful about the days ahead. John woke up early one morning, the first rays of sunlight spilling through the windows. The house had begun to feel like their own little world, full of warmth and memories in the making. Lily was already up, brushing her hair and humming a tune, a small sign of the joy and comfort she felt in this new space. John made them both a simple breakfast, pancakes with honey, and sat down at the kitchen table with Lily. They laughed over spilled syrup and stories from the day before, and John felt a deep sense of happiness he hadn't experienced in years. That morning, there was a knock at the door. It was the three women in uniform again, carrying boxes filled with materials for the next round of improvements. They smiled warmly and greeted both John and Lily. Today, they were planning to help finish a section of the garden and work on a small storage shed that had been leaning dangerously to one side. John felt grateful for their continued support. Their visits had become a part of their routine, bringing guidance, energy, and friendship into their lives. The day began with the garden. John, Lily, and the three women worked together, pulling weeds, planting flowers, and adding fresh soil to the garden beds. Lily carefully placed small flowers in neat rows, while John and the women moved larger plants and worked on clearing overgrown bushes. As they worked, they talked and laughed, sharing stories and ideas. The energy in the garden was contagious, and even passers-by would stop to compliment the progress and offer encouragement. John realized that the house and the garden were becoming symbols of growth, not just in the physical sense, but emotionally as well. After finishing in the garden, they turned their attention to the storage shed. It was old and unstable, with rotting wood and rusted hinges. John felt a bit nervous about tackling it, but the women guided him through each step. They showed him how to reinforce the beams, replace the old panels, and secure the structure safely. Lily stayed close by, handing tools and learning small skills along the way. The work was challenging, and at times John felt frustrated. But with the women's guidance and encouragement, he found the confidence to continue. By the afternoon, The shed was standing strong, and the garden looked vibrant and alive. John stepped back to admire the progress. He felt a deep sense of accomplishment, not only for the physical improvements, but for the teamwork and connection that had developed among them. Lily ran around the garden, her laughter filling the air, and John felt proud of the life they were building together. After lunch, they sat on the porch to rest. The women shared stories from their experiences in the military, tales of challenges they had overcome, and lessons about resilience and determination. John listened carefully, inspired by their strength and wisdom. He realized that the lessons they were sharing were just as important as the practical help they provided. He thought about how these women had appeared in their lives at just the right time, offering guidance, mentorship, and a sense of belonging that he had not expected. The following days were filled with similar activities. They worked on different sections of the house, fixing doors, painting walls, and adding small touches that made each room feel more like home. John learned new skills, from carpentry to gardening techniques, and Lily absorbed the lessons of patience, care, and responsibility. Their lives were becoming more structured and meaningful, each day bringing new progress and small victories. One evening, after a long day of work, the women helped John organize his plans for the coming weeks. They suggested creating a schedule to balance home repairs, work responsibilities, and time with Lily. John appreciated their advice and felt more organized and prepared for the challenges ahead. The women's mentorship extended beyond the house. They were helping him build a stable life for himself and Lily, showing him that success was a combination of effort, planning, and community support. Lily was thriving under the guidance of the women. She was learning new skills, gaining confidence, and discovering the joy of contributing to something meaningful. She enjoyed the shared projects and took pride in her accomplishments, whether it was planting a flower, painting a wall, or helping fix a chair. John watched her growth with pride, understanding that these experiences were shaping her into a capable and independent young girl. The women also encouraged John to take care of himself. He often worked long hours and pushed himself to the limit, but they reminded him that his well-being was just as important as providing for Lily. They suggested simple routines for rest, exercise, and relaxation, helping John maintain his energy and focus. John began to notice subtle changes in his own health and mindset. Feeling more balanced, patient, and optimistic. One weekend, they decided to tackle the attic together. The space had been cluttered and neglected, but with careful planning, they started organizing and cleaning it. John and Lily found old items that sparked curiosity: books, photographs, and letters from previous residents. The women helped them sort through the belongings, sharing stories about the significance of each item and the history of the house. The attic became more than a storage space. It turned into a small museum of memories, a place that connected the past to their present and future. As the weeks went by, John noticed that the house was slowly transforming into a true home. Each room had its character, the garden flourished with life, and the attic held stories that brought history to life. The sense of accomplishment was tangible, and John felt proud of the environment he had created for Lily. More importantly, he saw the growth in himself, and in Lily, the confidence, independence, and resilience that were blossoming with every task they completed. During this time, the women also introduced John to community resources and opportunities. They helped him identify part-time work that suited his skills, guided him through local support programs, and encouraged him to connect with neighbors. John realized that these connections were helping him build a stronger foundation for their future, not just through financial stability, but through relationships and community support. The women's guidance was holistic, shaping their lives in ways that extended far beyond the walls of the house. One afternoon, after completing a painting project in the living room, they all sat together on the freshly cleaned floor. John felt a sense of peace and gratitude. The women had not only helped them physically renovate the house, but had become pillars of support, mentors, and friends. Lily played nearby, her laughter echoing through the room, and John reflected on the journey so far. He realized that life had a way of bringing the right people at the right time, and that sometimes help and guidance came in forms one might not expect. The house, once old and neglected, was now vibrant and full of life. John had learned new skills. Lily had grown in confidence and curiosity, and their bond had strengthened through shared work and experiences. The women had become an integral part of their lives, teaching lessons that would stay with them long after the projects were complete. Their mentorship, support, and friendship had transformed not only the house, but the lives within it. John reflected on how far they had come. The initial struggle, the exhaustion, and the uncertainty had been replaced with hope, accomplishment, and connection. He knew there was still work to be done, but he no longer felt overwhelmed. With the guidance of the women, the love for his daughter, and the support of the growing community around them, he felt confident in their future. The journey had been challenging, but it had also been rewarding, teaching him the importance of perseverance, collaboration, and belief in oneself. By the end of the month, the house had become a place of stability, warmth, and hope. Each improvement was a testament to hard work, resilience, and teamwork. John watched Lily explore the rooms, her curiosity and joy evident in every step, and he felt a sense of accomplishment that went beyond the physical renovations. Their lives had changed in ways he could never have imagined, and he realized that the best days were still ahead. The house was no longer just a shelter, it was a home, a sanctuary, and a symbol of their journey. A journey that had been shaped by courage, love, and unexpected friendships. The morning sunlight poured through the windows of the house, casting a warm glow across the freshly painted walls. John walked through the rooms with a sense of pride and quiet satisfaction. Each corner told a story of effort, resilience, and love. From the polished floors to the well-tended garden outside, everything spoke of the hard work that he and Lily had put in over the past months. But more than the physical changes, the house reflected the transformation in their lives, the growth, strength, and hope that had blossomed within their small family. Lily ran ahead of John, her laughter echoing through the hallways. She had grown more confident, curious, and joyful since moving into the house. Her excitement was contagious, and John felt a deep sense of gratitude for the life they were building together. He remembered the early days when he had been overwhelmed by the thought of the house, unsure if he could manage it all. Now, as he watched Lily explore each room with wonder, he knew that every challenge had been worth it. The three women in uniform had become an integral part of their lives. Their visits continued, bringing guidance, mentorship, and friendship. They helped with the remaining repairs, offered advice on community connections, and shared stories that inspired and motivated John. Their presence had transformed not only the house, but the emotional landscape of their lives. They had taught John patience, resilience, and the importance of asking for help when needed. Their mentorship extended to Lily as well, fostering confidence, curiosity, and a sense of responsibility. One afternoon, the women suggested hosting a small gathering to celebrate the progress they had made. John agreed, feeling a mixture of excitement and nervousness. He prepared for the event, making sure the house was welcoming and organized. Lily helped by setting up small decorations in the garden, her enthusiasm filling the space with energy. When the day arrived, neighbors and friends came to see the transformed house. They marveled at the improvements, complimented the garden, and admired the warmth that filled every room. John felt a profound sense of accomplishment, knowing that their hard work had created something beautiful and meaningful. The celebration was filled with laughter, stories, and shared experiences. John realized that the house had become more than a home. It was a community hub, a place where connections were formed and bonds were strengthened. The women in uniform were there, proud of the progress and the lives they had touched. Their guidance had not only helped with physical improvements, but had also fostered emotional growth, confidence, and hope. John felt a deep sense of gratitude for their presence in their lives. As the weeks passed, John focused on stabilizing their future. With the skills he had learned from the women, he sought better job opportunities and secured part-time work that provided additional income. He also connected with local programs that offered support for single parents, finding resources that helped him manage finances and plan for the future. The house, once a daunting challenge, had become a foundation for stability and growth. Each improvement, each small success, reinforced the sense of possibility and hope that now defined their lives. Lily thrived in the new environment. She spent more time exploring the outdoors, learning about plants, and helping with household projects. The house had become a classroom, a playground, and a sanctuary all in one. John watched her growth with pride, understanding that the experiences they shared were shaping her into a resilient and capable young girl. The laughter, curiosity, and joy she displayed were reminders of why he had taken the risk to buy the old army home. One evening, as the sun set over the garden, John sat on the porch with a cup of tea, reflecting on their journey. The house had been a challenge, the work demanding, and the days long, but the rewards had been greater than he had imagined. He thought about the moments of struggle, the nights of uncertainty, and the countless hours spent repairing, cleaning, and organizing. And he realized that every moment had been worth it. The house was more than a physical space. It was a testament to perseverance, love, and hope. The women visited that evening, bringing small gifts and sharing stories from their own experiences. They spoke of courage, teamwork, and the importance of community. John listened, feeling inspired and grateful. Their guidance had helped him see possibilities he had never considered and had given him the tools to create a better life for himself and Lily. Their friendship had become a cornerstone of his life, offering support and encouragement that extended beyond the house itself. As they sat together, John shared his dreams for the future. He spoke of finishing the remaining renovations, expanding the garden, and creating a space where Lily could grow, learn, and explore. The women encouraged him, offering practical advice and sharing ideas that could help turn his visions into reality. John felt a renewed sense of purpose, understanding that the journey of building a home was also a journey of building a life. Lily, inspired by the conversations, shared her own dreams. She wanted to plant more flowers, paint murals on the walls, and explore new hobbies. John encouraged her, realizing that nurturing her creativity and independence was as important as providing a stable home. Together, they began planning projects that would bring more life and joy into their space. The house had become a canvas for their dreams, a place where imagination and hard work could coexist. The following weeks were filled with a balance of work and play. John and Lily continued to improve the house, while also taking time to enjoy the small moments, picnics in the garden, quiet reading sessions, and walks around the neighborhood. The women continued to visit, offering guidance, sharing meals, and mentoring both John and Lily. Their influence had become a steady presence in their lives, helping them navigate challenges and celebrate successes. One day, John reflected on the journey from the moment he first saw the listing for the old army home to the present. The house had been more than a property. It had been a turning point. The challenges had tested his patience and determination, but they had also revealed his resilience and capacity for growth. The support of the women had shown him the power of mentorship and community. And Lily's joy and growth had been the ultimate reward, a living testament to the life they were creating together. As the months passed, the house continued to improve. Each room reflected care and attention, each corner filled with memories of laughter, learning, and shared effort. The garden flourished, the shed stood strong, and the attic held treasures that connected the past with the present. John felt a sense of peace and fulfillment, knowing that they had created a home that was not only functional, but also nurturing, inspiring, and full of life. Evenings became a cherished time for reflection and connection. John and Lily would sit on the porch, watching the sunset, sharing stories, and planning for the future. The women would occasionally join them, offering encouragement and celebrating the small victories that marked their journey. The house had become a place of growth, love, and community, a symbol of what could be achieved with determination, guidance, and support. John realized that the journey was far from over, but the foundation they had built was strong. They had overcome challenges, learned valuable lessons, and created a space that nurtured growth and happiness. The old army home, once a symbol of uncertainty and risk, had become a beacon of hope, resilience, and possibility. John felt a deep sense of gratitude for the opportunity, for the guidance of the women, and for the unwavering love he shared with Lily Dot as he tucked Lily into bed that night. John whispered words of encouragement and hope. He promised her that they would continue to build, grow, and explore together. The house, now filled with warmth, laughter, and life, was a testament to their journey. And as he turned off the light and closed the door, he knew that the best days of their lives were still ahead. The house was no longer just a structure. It was home, a place where dreams could flourish, and where love, resilience, and hope would continue to shape their lives for years to come.